A missionary from Manhattan, New York, was going to Ghana, and as she was there, her mission project was to build water wells for more accessible, clean water for a village there. And as she was gathering by the old well, which water supply was starting to dry out, she met these ladies that were coming from great distance, carrying their jugs of water on their head. This one gal had a 5-gallon jug empty and was getting ready to draw water. And she said, "How far have you come to get this water?" She said, "About 7 kilometers, about 5 miles. And the American woman said, "Oh, I'm so sorry that you have to go so far to get your water." And then she realized that she might have crossed a social mores, that a first world thought to what she thought was a third world life. And she felt guilty. And the woman looked at her, which she thought was a pained look, but her brow was furrowed. She thought maybe she had offended the lady. She immediately began to apologize for asking the question. And the lady said to her, "How do you get your water?" She said, "Well, feeling guilty all the more, I usually just turn the spigot. The pipes come to my house." She's trying to explain to her the running water she had for bath, for showers. And she felt all the more guilty in saying this. She felt sorry for this woman, for the great trial of carrying water back and forth to bathe, to wash, to cook, everything that she needed in that journey of 5 miles, back and forth, maybe once, maybe twice a day, dependent on whether it had rained or it was arid, really in a much more vulnerable, precarious situation. But then the woman surprised her and said, "But how do you tell your stories?" In a great pity for the American. Because this woman, this Ghananese woman, saw her as disconnected from her community. It was as they traveled to the well with all her friends, the older and younger women of their community, they talked about their husbands and life and politics and what was going on in their village and their kids and trying to keep them on the straight and narrow and discipline them, and stories and laughter and sadness and grief. But together on that journey was more than a hardship to get water. It was their community. And the New Yorker had missed it, made assumptions, had biases, first world problems placed on what she thought were less fortunate people. She had gone to give them something, water, a well, a better well, and they in turn gave her something life-giving that she was missing. As the woman came to the well that day, the interaction between her and Jesus, Samaritan and Jew, there was a lot of history there. It goes way back to Jacob in Genesis 29 when Jacob meets Rachel. He goes there, he's fled. If you recall, Esau, his brother, wants to kill him. He goes to live at his mother's recommendation with her brother Laban family. And so he asks these shepherds around this well in the land that he's traveled to, "Do you know anything about Laban? Can you tell me about my family here?" And they say, "Yeah. In fact, here comes his daughter Rachel now. She's bringing the flock." And he said, "Well, you guys hang around here. Let's move the stone for her." And they said, No. We do this when we get all the flocks gathered. So we're going to leave, and we'll give you guys a moment alone." So they head off to find their flocks, and Jacob and Rachel have this moment. He moves the stone away. He tells her all about who he is, and he gives her a drink. And she, in excitement, runs back to tell Laban and everybody in her family, "Listen to this guy I just met at the well. It's good news. He's family, and he's come to live with us." The echoes of the story that John writes at the well are really strong. But the power is, this story was one for the Samaritan woman and for Jesus, for her tribe and his, because at that time, when Jacob and Rachel met, they were one people. They would continue to then be 12 tribes. It was a story of a time when they were together. But history had not been kind. They had separated during the reign of King Rehoboam. The 10 tribes, when Rehoboam said, listen, I'm following my father Solomon. You thought he was a tough guy. I am going to put it to you guys. Taxation, work. We're going to build this kingdom from the ground up in ways that Solomon didn't even begin to scratch. And the 10 northern tribes said, hey, we're out of here. We don't need you as a king. We don't need to come to Jerusalem. We don't need to come to the temple. We'll worship on our own mountain, Gerizim. We'll build our own temple. And so there's some animosity. The Assyrians come and take over. They move the Samaritans out. They intermarry. They intermix. They start to take on other customs, other faith. They don't follow any of the other books of the Bible except for the 5 and the Pentateuch, the Torah, because Kings and Chronicles are all written with a southern slant. That's your telling of our story, not ours. That's not our book. You're not our people. You guys don't count. And it went both ways. So the Jews had laws, don't associate with Samaritans. So when it says in John's gospel that Jesus needed to go to Samaria, I think, what Jew ever needs to go to Samaria? What, did he know of a good kosher deli there? I mean, why does he have to go to Samaria? There's other roads. He could have gone around the Jordan River bank. It's a much smoother, much better road in the ancient times than going up the Rocky Mountains of Samaria, a much more dangerous route, and through territory that frankly most Jews didn't. There wasn't anything for them in Samaria, not anything they thought, no one that really mattered. But Jesus intends to go there. Why does he need to go to Samaria? I mean, it would be like, for contrast, it would be like saying today, a Muslim Palestinian in the Golan Heights needs to go stay at an Orthodox Jew's kibbutz. I need to go there, get in touch with my Jewish brother, my Jewish neighbor. It'd be like 1955, a black man saying, I need to go to white church today. No, you don't. No, that's not a good idea. Our history isn't good. You're asking for trouble. So why does Jesus go to this well? He stops, the disciples leave him, much like the shepherds left Jacob. This woman approaches with her flock. Give me a drink. Excuse me? Give me a drink, I'm thirsty. I don't know where you grew up or what your parents taught you, sir, but where I'm from, clearly you're Jewish. I'm a Samaritan. This can't be happening. We're not having this dialogue. Jews, John reminds us, don't associate with Samaritans. Even if you were the last guy on earth, I probably couldn't give you a drink. Our people, friction. Our histories aren't so good. Jesus says to her, if you knew who it is that's asking you, you'd ask me, and I'd give you water that's life-giving. And very much like the story of Nicodemus we had last week, there's this confusion. There's this lost in translation. What are you talking about? You giving me water. You don't have anything to draw from. You don't have any cup. And even if you did, if I handed you my cup, your laws say that touching anything, even a glass, water, would contaminate you. You'd be unclean because I am a less than. I don't count as holy like you guys. My version of God is different than your version of God. It's oil and water we don't mix. Don't you understand? Can't you get it through your head? What you're asking me isn't allowed in the playbook. Go and call your husband. Come back here. And as she's thinking, he's thinking of literal water. She won't have to dip from the well anymore. I won't have to come back here. Give me this water. He says, go call your husband. So she goes. And she says to him, Jesus, listen, I don't have any husband. He says, you're right. Thank you for telling me that. You've had 5. And this is where the text often goes kind of off kilter. He says, you've had 5 husbands, and the man you're living with right now isn't your husband. You've been truthful and honest with me. You have no husband. Almost every preacher I've heard preach this text says, she's a sinner. She's a loose woman. She's a tramp. And Jesus is there to put her back on the straight and narrow. This is judgment about what kind of woman she is. And I want to say this very clearly. That's putting 21st century ethics and morality and culture, most importantly, on first century life. As a woman, one of three things are happening with her 5 previous marriages. First of all, these 5 guys could have just not liked her cooking, not liked her cleaning, whatever domesticated stuff that they didn't like about her. They might have not liked how she looked. And they could have said, "You're out. I divorce you. Here's the paper. Good luck." And if she had family, great, she could go back to her family. But if they're all gone, if they're dead, if they've moved away, she is destitute. She has no recourse. She has nothing she can do. They had all the power. It could be that she's barren. She can't have children, so she can't perpetuate the family. And if you can't perpetuate a family in a culture where you're defined by having children who can continue the family name, well, if you can't provide that, you're of no use to me, so you're out. The third possibility is that her husband's died. Could you imagine 5 deaths? Black widow? You don't want to go with this woman because, my gosh, she's bad luck. She's damaged goods. Maybe the 6th guy says, let's not rush things here. I'll help take care of you, but I'm not going to get married right away because your track record's not so good. In any of those instances, imagine what she carries with herself. As Pastor Michelle was speaking, the reenactment of the text, the adaptation, you could hear some of those emotions, the judgment of people have telling her story for her without really knowing her story at the well. They're going to fill it with her jar with whatever they think belongs there. And we continue to do so today. Jesus makes no judgment. It's not like the woman caught in adultery who says, "Go sin no more." No. In fact, Jesus has, most beautifully, the longest conversation of anybody in the Bible with this woman, the Samaritan woman at the well. He blows through all the acceptable, polite social mores. You can't, as a rabbi, mix with a woman. Speaking with her at high noon by yourself, that's a no-no. You can't speak or interact with a Samaritan, and you certainly can't share a cup with her. And all of them, Jesus says, "Hey, I'm here for you." And what tells me it's more about a reconciliation of peoples and a value to say, Jew, Samaritan, God's children, is she goes on, look at the text. I know my people tell me we worship on Mount Gerizim. We follow God in this way. And Jesus says, listen, I'm here to tell you that this age, there will come a time when it doesn't matter what mountain you worship on. It doesn't matter what tribe you are. She said, well, I know when the Messiah comes, he's going to set this all right. He says, I'm him. It's me. So this woman who came, by the way, to get water, John's symbolism is so beautiful. She leaves her jar and goes running. All those people in her community who she was avoiding when she first went to the well, you've got to hear what this guy told me. It's almost, if you've seen the play Les Miserables, Les Mis, Jean Valjean, in the beginning of the story, he's a prisoner. He's stolen a loaf of bread. He's trying during his parole to find work. Nobody will hire him. So in desperation, he goes to see the bishop. The bishop gives him a meal. When the bishop goes to bed and wishes him a blessing, in the dead of the night, he steals his fine silver and he leaves the most precious thing, his candelabra. The police catch Jean Valjean and they arrest him. They take him to the bishop in the dead of the night and they say, this man told us you gave him your fine silver, but he's a liar. And we're going to take him and we're going to put him away forever. And the bishop, in a surprising shift of expectation, says, no, this man has spoken true. But you forgot the most valued thing in the house, this candelabra. And if you've seen the play, like the woman leaving her jar, in most of the plays that I've seen of Les Mis, there's just this ending spotlight on the candelabra with the words in the back of the viewer's mind, go and become a better man. I've given you life-giving water. She's the first person in this gospel to be a messenger for God. She's the first person to realize this man is Lord, this man is Savior, this man is beautiful. And so she takes it to her people. Much as Rachel went and told Laban, I met this guy. Did you hear? You got to hear what he said. He's coming here. He's part of our family. And in this case, Jesus has given her something. You've got to come hear this man. He's told me, we know the conversation is a lot longer because she said, he's told me everything I've ever done, everything about my life. He knows me. Life-giving water, guys. Life-giving water. Going past all those enmities, all the distancing. Today, as we sit in our sofas or our kitchen tables or wherever it is you're watching today or listening on television, we know what it is to be distant from each other. And at the well, Jesus says, come close. You're one people. Not Jews, not Samaritans, not right wing, left wing, not Democrat, Republican, not conservative, not liberal, not black, white, Jew, Palestinian, Protestant north, Irish south, ne'er the two cross. No, you're my children. And I've come this well, I've needed to come this well to show you some reconciliation. The last and maybe most shocking part of this whole rich text is after Jesus she draws all these people from the crowd, from her hometown to the well. Then Jesus, it's just a very subtle, small line, you might have missed it. Jesus decides, hey guys, let's stay here in Samaria, and they do so for 2 days. What? This isn't good for public relations. We're going to stay in Samaria with these Samaritans? The folks back in Galilee and in Jerusalem, they're not going to understand this. Reconciliation. We've been at it for 1,000 years. Maybe it's time to rewrite it. Amen.